Hello and welcome to the Half Court Press podcast, the Omaha World-Herald. I am Nebraska men's basketball beat writer Wilson Moore, joined as always by Creighton beat writer Jon Walker.
What's up?
We're coming to you. I think we last did this 6 days ago. A lot happened for Nebraska, good and bad, in the past week. A little bit less for Creighton, but before we get into that, John, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. It's been an eventful week. Yeah, I think we're probably reaching that time of year. We'll crank out the rest of non-con. Creighton will get started on Big East play, and then they'll have 10 days off, and we'll hop straight into it to start the new year. So I don't know what's Nebraska's schedule look like.
Nebraska's got K-State on Sunday on
in
the
Manhattan.
road. Yep, in Manhattan in the Little Apple. That'll be probably their toughest road test so far, which is not great when they played a comparatively easier team in Minnesota on the road. We'll get into that, and we'll also don't turn this off yet, Nebraska fans, because we'll also talk about Michigan State. Then after that they've got North Dakota. Then a week or so off, South Carolina State, and then
they're full into Big Ten
then we're back
play.
into Big Ten play.
It's that time of year. We're gearing up for it. I'm good. How are you, Wilson?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I got a little. Nebraska's on finals,
had
so
a trip.
Nothing really this week till Sunday. Yeah, trip was good. Went up to Minnesota. That's always it's always a good time getting back to Minneapolis.
I'll be up there, I guess, to tease a story I'm going to have in the works. I'll be up there to talk. Oh, my goodness. I can't even remember what the suburb is.
Is it? I know what you're talking about, but I want to hear you try to pronounce this and hear how you do it.
Okay. Rosemount?
Oh, I thought you...
No. I'll be in Rosemount on the 29th.
Okay, I thought you were going a completely different direction here.
No. Yeah, I'll be in Rosemount on the 29th for a story I'm working on.
All right.
I think Creighton fans will enjoy that one.
All right. See, I thought you were going to talk about Wayzata, Minnesota, which is where Jackson McAndrew is from. And
So they're playing in Rosemount.
Okay.
Rosemount that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because everyone mispronounces that.
Okay, what is it?
Wayzata. It looks like Wayzata. There could be.
Yeah, I'm not going to mispronounce it now.
It's pronounced Wayzata. So when you get to Rosemount, you can look cool and you're familiar with the Minneapolis western suburbs. But back in Omaha here, I guess we can just start with this because there wasn't a whole lot of surprise. But Creighton played Central Michigan and took care of business.
Yeah, I mean, 109-64. They were 7 points away from tying, 8 points away from breaking the single game scoring mark under Mac. I mean, every bit of the word domination is kind of what they did on Saturday. I thought they did it the right way. They pretty much said we know that Pritchard, and I can't even remember his the other pretty salty kid on Central Michigan. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head. But they essentially said, we're going to let them score because they're going to get theirs anyways, and we're going to shut down everybody else. And that's what they did. It obviously wasn't enough. And then on the other end, I think 6Js ended up in double figures. Maybe most importantly, they figured out the 4 spot, Wilson. That was kind of the question for this team all offseason. Who was going to play the 4? How effectively were they going to play the 4? And if Isaac Trott and Mason Miller combine to do what they did on Saturday, when Big East play starts to roll around, they're probably going to have one of the best lineups in the Big East. I think.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that we've seen them. It's kind of we've seen them in tandem. Especially with I think Sam mentioned this on a pod a few weeks ago, losing Kaluma's scoring over the offseason. It's kind of a Moneyball approach. We can't replace Giambi, but we can do it in the aggregate, and that was that was crazy.
We're trying to buy points.
Yeah,
we're not trying to buy players.
And that seems to be what Creighton's done with Trout and Miller.
Yeah, no, for sure. I also didn't realize this is what, week 2. Yesterday was the start of week 3 for me, so I'm still getting my feet wet on the beat. I didn't know that Jason Green was in that mix too before the season. So 3 people were in that mix. Jason Green got hurt before the year, I think is what McDermott said on Saturday. And, so at least leading up to the season and so far this season, it's been a rotation between them. Miller was the starter. He got sick, missed a few games. Trott came in, did a really good job in filling in for him. And now we see that you can rely on both of them on a nightly basis. They combined for 35, both set career highs. I think Isaac Trott had 18, Miller had 17. They combined to go 12 of 14. It was just, if the 4 can give you 35 points every night, no matter if it's one of those guys or a combination of both, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, especially when Creighton doesn't really need that much from them. On a typical night, if Trey Alexander's got it rolling or Stephen Ashworth, I know you wrote about, is hot from 3, they don't even need that much.
I might have jinxed him. Yeah, I might have jinxed him because he went 1 for 7 against Central Michigan. But that's still kind of it's like they put up 109, they shot like 68% from the field, 50% from 3 or something like that, and he was 1 for 7. And so, it just, imagine if he was on 2 or, even 3 or 4 for 7, they would have maybe snuck up on that single game scoring mark. I don't know, but it's nuts. That's defensively, and McDermott mentioned this too. Defensively, they've got a little bit of a ways to go. But they present different things defensively, and so that just goes to show, like, if they both keep up on the other end, you're going to be able to play your matchup, whatever you need it to be, on a nightly basis. So, that was the biggest takeaway from last week, because there probably were never going to be any massive takeaways in a 45-point route, but that one stood out for sure. Yeah. So. And, of course, I guess I'll provide the disclaimer that, yes, it was Central Michigan.
Yeah.
So if we get 35 from those 2 against UConn, then we'll talk. That's obviously a big one. But it was good to see that they're capable of having a night like this despite, in a way, splitting minutes. Yep. So.
Yeah. I guess on the Nebraska side, we can start with the first game they played in the past week.
Looked good for the first 25 minutes.
Yeah. That was what Fred Hoiberg said after the game. He said he thought he thought Nebraska had their best 20 minutes and their worst 20 minutes in the same game. That was just, they moved the ball well in the first half. They played well on defense. Minnesota was losing its best player, Dawson Garcia. And then, man, the wheels just came off in the second half.
Yeah.
There were, the offense got real stagnant. They did not handle Minnesota's physicality well at all.
It felt like the ball got sticky.
Absolutely.
Minnesota's physicality was like stopping the ball more than it probably should have.
Yeah.
And then they'd get in trap situations, and then they'd get in late shot clocks, and it was just like possession after possession after possession. It was so. I didn't think you could make that many halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
And Minnesota did.
Yeah.
For somehow.
Yeah.
So that was nuts to me.
Yeah. It's just kind of it was bad. It was like just basic stuff. Like dribble handoffs getting blown up at the top of the key and going for a layup on the other end.
Yeah.
And you could maybe make a case with Minnesota that the ball moved a little better without Dawson Garcia. That people weren't standing around just letting him do his thing on the perimeter. But Joshua Ola-Joseph, I thought was the guy who caused the most problems. He's built like an oak tree and just moved people out of his way, got offensive rebounds, and Nebraska was in it. They couldn't make shots. They couldn't recover from that run, which and you can talk about, like what's physical, what's mental. I know Nebraska really wasn't happy with the way they handled the Gophers making that charge.
No, and that would have been 2 games in a row for them.
Yeah.
Right? You had the Creighton scored 30 points in the last 9 minutes of the first half in that game, and then obviously the second half was, kind of already decided.
Yeah.
And so then you think everything's going really, really, really well. Yeah. You're up on Minnesota to open Big Ten play on the road. Yes,
they're missing their best player.
Yeah, and then that's it. So that it has to be a defeating feeling, maybe in that moment. Now they bounce back, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here shortly. But that had to be one of those moments that kind of, even though we're only a month into the season, kind of determines which direction a team goes. It would have been so easy for Nebraska to fold. 7-0. They're handed their first loss pretty handedly. Just had a massive heartbreaker on the road to open conference play. And then, but no, that's not what they let happen. So,
no,
good for Hoiberg and them for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it is easy to think about how different the complexion of this season feels if they don't blow that a 17-point lead. Because suddenly you're looking at
8-1.
Yeah,
your lone losses to the number 8 team in the country. Yeah. That is a good resume.
Yeah.
So they would, but
yeah, as you said, credit to them for picking themselves back up a few days later. I thought that was probably their most impressive win of the season.
For sure.
We've talked about how Michigan State has looked like Michigan State.
Not your usual Izzo squad. It's not March yet.
No, but still, I don't care what time of the year it is. I don't care what team it is.
Sure.
You're never just gonna get a win over Michigan State. You got to earn that, and Nebraska did. You could see some of the adjustments. I thought Rink Mast had an interesting quote after the game that he was he played a little more under control. He said his priority was when he gets the ball in the high post, not to dribble right away like he had been, to stop, survey,
stop
hit,
and scan.
Get hit, he got Keisei Tominaga a couple times cutting to the basket. He hit Bryce Williams on one of those two. And Nebraska just played better. They rebounded a lot better. Mast was a big part of that with 14. Just things clicked a little bit better. Keisei Tominaga had a big game. Bryce Williams hit maybe the biggest shot of the night.
Yeah, Bryce Williams was a dog against Michigan State. That was nails.
Yeah, and just a lot of good individual performances. Jawan Gary was great. Sam Hoiberg was not a guy who really showed up on the stat sheet a lot, but I thought he played really well, especially on defense late in the game. Quick aside, I found in covering this team, I enjoy watching Sam Hoiberg play for his sheer confidence of just I'm 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
That guy is 6'11". Let's see what happens.
Rim. Yeah, let's rim run.
Let's go. Yeah, and it's kind of sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's always entertaining, and I respect his ambition whenever it happens.
Yeah, no, that was good. I think maybe the most impressive part of Nebraska's win over Michigan State, it was maybe early 60s to upper 50 at that point. They'd led. Yeah. They were up.
Yeah.
And it was maybe 62-58, somewhere right in there. And then they went on a 9-0 run somewhere right in there. And that was kind of, the lead that they rode to the end, I believe. Yeah. But that was the most impressive part to me because Michigan State stuck around. Again, the third game in a row, it could have happened, where things snowballed, and instead they were kind of the enforcer in that situation, which, you can do in some situations with the non-con schedule they've had. But to do that against a team like Michigan State, albeit, I don't know, without its star freshman for whatever reason, it's still a vote of confidence that I'm sure they'll carry forward into Big Ten play.
Yeah. First win over Michigan State since 2016.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So have they played twice a year? Or no, because the Big Ten plays...
it's kind of a rotating schedule.
Yeah.
Some years is twice. I think this year it's just once.
Okay. I got you.
I'm pretty sure they don't go to East Lansing this year.
Okay. But either way, you play once a year.
Yeah.
So 7 years.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, first time in the Fred era.
I don't even know who would have been at Michigan State in 2016.
2016.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking.
I think he got drafted like 2014.
So was this 16-17 or 15-16?
15-16. This is January of 16.
Okay. Okay, let's see. We've got like Kyle Ahrens, Javon Bess. Yeah. That's nuts.
Was that Jaren Jackson Jr. or was he later?
Okay. It's loading. Okay, yeah. Matt Costello would have been a senior on that team. Matt McQuaid would have been a freshman. And yes, that was Denzel Valentine's senior year.
Wow.
Nuts. Yeah. And they beat that team.
Yeah.
Good for them.
A lot has changed.
Yeah. Man, that's nuts. Good for Nebraska.
Yeah.
Who do they have coming up? K-State this week.
K-State coming up.
And then they close out non-con?
Yeah. Well, then North Dakota.
Okay.
Then Christmas break. Then one last non-con, South Carolina State. Then Indiana comes to Pinnacle Bank Arena after that.
That'll be a good stretch for them, though, I think. Regardless of what happens in Manhattan, they will be able to have a couple of games to get their feet under them and then host Indiana. Yeah. So that'll be a good stretch for them, for sure.
Yeah. Now, I think Creighton has the bigger game coming up this week. Are they hosting or are they on?
They are on the road for UNLV tomorrow. They're already out there. They left this morning. Okay. And UNLV Wednesday night, and then they return to Omaha and host Bama.
Okay.
So and Bama is I was in the middle of writing my story, actually, my UNLV preview before we hopped on here, and was talking about, Bama is a really interesting team this year. Yeah. They were picked third in the SEC preseason, maybe fourth behind Kentucky, but that's a good spot to be in. Yeah. Obviously a team that lost Brandon Miller over the offseason for graduation. They were in the Elite Eight last year, in the Sweet 16 at least. And so they had 16? Sweet 16 maybe. I don't remember.
Did they get upset?
They did.
I'm
they
blanking.
did.
I remember their tournament run was kind of disappointing.
Yeah. Were they San Diego State? That would have been. Yeah, that would have been San Diego State. Right. I think. No clue. But they had all of these preseason expectations, and now they've kind of hit a little bit of a bump. They're 6-3. They have clobbered teams. I mean, they've beat Morehead State, Indiana State, South Alabama. Teams you should. Yeah. Then they lost to Ohio State, beat Oregon by 8, and then lost to Clemson, which Clemson's exceeded everyone's expectations thus far, I think. Yeah. But lost to Clemson in the ACC SEC Challenge, and then most recently hung in there with Purdue in Toronto for a neutral matchup and only lost by 6.
Yeah. I thought I watched that game. I thought that was, they played Purdue pretty well.
Yeah. Not having they relied on their guards solely too, because they don't have, and not many teams do, but they certainly do not have an Edey stopper.
No. They might have last year with Charles Bediako, but he's gone.
Yeah, might have last year, but they solely relied on their speed this game. They had to. There was never a chance. I think we'll see a similar thing with Ryan Kalkbrenner and like how Alabama approaches Creighton on Saturday. But brutal stretch for Bama. Purdue at Creighton at Arizona.
Yeah. Jeez.
I mean, why would you ever do that to yourself?
Nate Oates has some confidence in his
Yeah,
game.
he sure does. So that'll be a fun game on Saturday. But the Jays can't overlook UNLV. Nah, they'll be fine, I think. Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? It would scream trap game, right?
Yeah.
UNLV. You're on the road. UNLV's been streaky, really streaky. They lost on opening night to Southern University. They have hung in there with Florida State. Just lost to Loyola Marymount.
Yeah.
So nobody knows what you're going to get from UNLV.
Right. Potential trap game.
The
game. Temptations of Las Vegas. You can never count that.
Exactly. So, who knows? But Saturday will be the big one for sure. It was originally scheduled to be at 1 p.m. and it got moved to 7. It's Fox's primetime matchup for a reason. So it'll be a good one.
Yeah. I know there's Creighton has UNLV, but players and coaches talk about not looking ahead, but we have no such obligations. So, what?
Absolutely not.
How do you see Alabama and Creighton playing out?
I think we're gonna see a lot of threes. Duh, it's a Creighton game, right? Like, yeah, we're going to. But Bama has been interesting this year in the fact that they have put points on everyone. I would assume it doesn't happen too often that with that rim protection, Purdue gives up 80 plus.
Yeah. And
Bama put 86 on them and still struggled at times. So, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of shooting. They shoot 40%. They let 12 threes fly a game. And I think that percentage probably bumped a couple of ticks after the Purdue game.
Yeah,
they were
especially in the first half. They shot the lights out.
And
game.
they were never gonna try and win on the post.
Yeah.
with how their roster is constructed and how Purdue's is. Like, it was just never gonna happen. So I think we'll probably see a really good matchup between the like 2s and 3s, like with Trey Alexander and Baylor Shireman. You have Grant Nelson, obviously, who Baylor Shireman is probably pretty familiar with because Grant Nelson was at North Dakota State.
Really?
Shireman was at South Dakota State. So that'll be
Summit League matchup.
That'll be interesting. And then they have Aaron Estrada too, and so I think it'll be pretty fun. Maybe the most nail-biting matchup the Jays have had so far.
Yeah.
So we'll find out a lot about them because they got blown out by Colorado State and Kansas City, but they haven't been like tested.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, nobody has gone back and forth with them for 40 minutes.
Yeah. Iowa maybe a little bit.
Yeah, Iowa did, and they kind of pulled away late. But I really think this will, and I don't think it's a stretch to say this will be their biggest test of the season so far.
Yeah.
And then they'll hop straight into Big East play.
Yeah.
So, buckle up.
That time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Nebraska's got K-State. I think we touched on this a little. But
is that a part of a challenge or anything, or they just scheduled that?
I think that's just just is what it is. Yeah. I think, like we touched on, we'll see how much growth they've had in handling a difficult environment. From a week ago, they didn't handle it very well when Minnesota went on its run, and it was kind of a sleepy crowd, but kind of got the crowd into it at that point. And I think this will be. No, it won't be. I was gonna say this will be Nebraska's biggest test. I think we'll say non-Creighton division.
Non-Creighton, yeah. That'd be a fun game too. Creighton K-State.
Yeah. The Arthur Kaluma reunion game.
Did you see the Joe Lenard? I mean, it's December, so I guess not to look too much into it. But Joe Lenardi's predictions for his bracketology recently.
I skimmed it this morning.
So it has Creighton is a 2 seed in the. I can't even remember what region it is. It's the one that runs through L.A.
Okay.
The 1 seed, I don't even remember because their part of the bracket is like, Arizona is the 1 seed.
Arizona.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, that would be fun. They get the chance because they lost to Arizona last year, I think, or 2 years ago. So they'd get a shot at redemption at Arizona. And then Gonzaga is the 3 seed. So they could run into Nemhard.
Wow.
And, yeah, wouldn't that be something? Or the 6 seed, who could, in theory, play Gonzaga, would be Colorado State. Yeah. So, yeah. It'd be fun. That'd be...
storylines in mind, making setting up that bracket.
We don't make the bracket for ratings. We don't manipulate the bracket. Of course they do. Come on now. But it's fun. That'd make for a fun March. We've got a long ways to go until then, though.
We do. We're not even in a conference play yet.
It's not even 2024.
It's not.
Soon.
Yeah. Well, with all that in mind, big week, I think, in front of both Creighton and Nebraska. Moving ahead, big week for both of us covering all of that. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Half Court Press Podcast with Jon Walker. I'm Wilson Moore.